It's called Set It Off, if you'll recall.
Yes, I set it off. We are, celebrating almost 30 years, not 30, 25.
Yeah, yeah. But how exciting is it being a part of this tonight? And on top of that, at an event that's Black-owned.
Oh my gosh, Byron Allen, the Byron Allen, y'all. Mr. Billionaire, Mr. Buy Networks, Mr. Shows, Mr. Everything. We love Byron Allen. All of us here have worked with Byron. That's why we're all here to support him. And the fact that it is an African-American man who can bring, as you see, the top of Black excellence, Black Hollywood out to support him tonight on Oscars.
Did you see the Griot Awards?
I went to the awards in D.C.
No, the Griot Awards, that was here.
I forget I had another event, but
yeah, that was one of the most amazing award shows I've ever. She did.
I miss my mama.
And Queen Latifah was there.
I miss my mama. Dang.
That's right.
Yes.
It was one of the most classiest events I've ever been to, and I've been covering this for a long time.
That's Byron Allen. Byron Allen is all about class, bringing out, like I said, Black excellence, the best that Hollywood has to offer. Everyone shows up in their tux and gets dressed up and shows out.
That's right. Final question. What kind of advice would you give someone who is perhaps struggling with their vision and maybe even afraid to take that next step?
Oh my gosh, you got to believe in yourself. It all starts with believing in yourself. That's the first step. No one can step in the way of your journey. Know that it can start at any time. I mean, there was one wonderful lady in Wakanda that was 80 years old that got her first acting role. So it can happen, but you have to make the effort. You have to make the effort. Success is not gonna come to you, baby. You got to go knocking on success door. Matter of fact, kick it all the way in. Go get it. You can do it, but you have to start out in believing in yourself.
Do we love? Where is love? Has it gone? Do we search or move on? Hear the wind as it blows, and my heart says the next time I'm known. Set it off, I suggest, yo. Set it off, I suggest, yo. Set it off. Come on now, set it off. Set it off on the set it off on the left.
Set it off on the left, set it off on the right. Joining me in the studio right now, my dear sister, beloved, longtime sister, friend. We go all the way back to 1991, the African American Women's Conference in San Diego, California. We still hanging, huh, Sister Jewel?
That's right. You can't get rid of me.
Oh, yeah, and I don't want to. But tell me your thoughts of what you just heard Vivica talk about, because you go on the road all over the country with that same message, telling people not to give in, not to give up.
Absolutely. And I look at you, you are a great example. You offer a template of 3 qualities I think we need to be successful. First of all, you got to be insistent. Like, this is my time, this is my talent, this is my gift, this is my idea. Insist that the doors begin to open, that people return your phone calls. Be insistent. Don't let anything stop you. The next thing is you've been consistent. Consistent. Many people stop at the first red light. Many people get discouraged by other people's opinions. You and I have been through the valleys and the mountaintops, and we didn't let anything stop us from being consistent. The third thing is, Eric, you got to be persistent. That's different than insistence. You got to be persistent. No matter the pandemic, no matter what's happening with our relationships, no matter what's happening with the economy, are we persistent? Do we press? Do we press towards the higher mark? And I think those are qualities that some people are missing. They want a lot of green lights. Mm-hmm. They want everybody to be their cheerleader. You and I know that sometimes this is a lonely road.
Yes, Lord.
You and I know that sometimes we've got to wear all the hats.
Absolutely.
Okay? So don't give up, but also know that it takes these qualities, because you're going to run into challenges. You're going to run into obstacles. You're going to even have moments of self-doubt. Look, I do myself sometimes. But there's such a drive in me, and I know that drive is in you. And the drive is there because you have a gift. You have an anointing. I believe I have the same thing too. It won't let me go.
Yep.
It won't let you go. That's when you know you're on purpose, because no matter what's going on, you wake up thinking about it. You can't stop dreaming about it and planning.
Absolutely, and I concur, and thank you for the compliments there, but that is exactly who I am.
Yes.
Because I don't know how many times, Jewel, people have asked me, have I considered something else?
Me too.
And I've got a picture of me when I was 11 years old, pretending then what I do now, taking November 28th, 1974, in Pearl River, Louisiana, of me pretending to be a radio television host. And I used to run around with a makeshift microphone, interviewing the cats and the dogs, and if they were not available, I'd interview the tree leaves.
I love it. You know what you were doing? You were visualizing. You were using your mental capacity to see it before it manifests. You know, the Word of God says that faith is the substance of things not seen.
That's
and
right.
things that we hope for. So substance means, sub means underneath us. Stance means to stand. So there's something underneath us that allows us to stand even though we don't see it physically. We're standing on faith. We're standing on the word. We're standing in courage. And what's underneath us is our faith. What's underneath us is our talent. What's underneath us is courage. And it allows us to stand until it comes into physical manifestation.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are listening right now, whether you're on the freeway or you're at home, we want to encourage you that, as Vivica mentioned, the lady who was in the movie Wakanda, 80 years old,
Yeah.
when she got her first role in a movie, she didn't give up.
Don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle.
That's right.
Because you never know. I think that God sets things up. And I often use the metaphor of a waiting room. Can you imagine being in the waiting room and you're like, oh, I'm tired of waiting. It's cold, it's hot, nobody to talk to. And then as soon as you leave the waiting room, your name is called.
I know that's right.
Okay. So I am not getting up out of I'm going to wait and I'm going to pray and I'm going to stay there until my name is called.
Absolutely. And so many times now, people who have visions, we all are tired of the waiting room. I'm tired of it. But at the
Yes.
same time, when I do what I do, I'm not tired yet.
No.
So, yes.
What's the old gospel? I ain't no ways tired.
That's right. I don't feel
And
no
so
ways
when
tired.
I think about that, I think about our ancestors. I think about people that really toiled from sun up to sun down with no respite.
That's right.
With no pay, with no compensation. And so how dare us insult them?
That's right.
I can't do it, Eric. I've got to keep my hand on the plow.
In fact, last week I had Byron Allen as my very first guest on the Cut Chronicles, and he mentioned something similar to that, mentioning the fact that the ancestors, man, they toiled in the vineyards
Come
for
on.
so long, they were unable
Come on.
to reap the benefits. They had their inventions stolen.
Yes.
And so many other things they couldn't read. One of the reasons that I love reading, like one of my favorite books, I have it right here, is called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And for
Oh, it's
those
a
of
classic.
you who are watching online on our station here at KCAA radio.com, man, this is a classic. It's torn, it's tattered. I've read it about 250 times.
I believe it.
I never get on a plane without it. It's very rare that I get on a plane without it. But the thing about it is, even more than reading, we have to apply that.
That's it.
The same thing as with the word, correct?
Readers are leaders.
That's right.
Readers are leaders because you're making a deposit. You're investing in yourself. And every time you read it, I bet you get another insight. You get another pearl of wisdom because you're different than you were when you started reading it. So you've got an accumulation of experiences. You've got new connections. You have new insight, new maturity, new faith. And so you're reading it with fresh eyes. And a lot of times when we read something, it's the whole context changes or it goes deeper into our spirit. Like, my God, that is rich. Oh, my God, I got to be consistent in applying that success principle.
Absolutely. And it's always good to get and to acquaint yourself with the works of people who are smarter than we are.
Absolutely.
You know, iron sharpens iron. And that's the
Yeah.
way that, like I said, I love reading quotes. I don't know how many quote books, just like yourself, I'm sure. And of course, I love reading the stories and the books of others. And again, when I read, Jewel, I think about my grandfather, an unlearned man.
Oh, come on.
And so many others who were either permitted not to read. And then, of course, when we think about all of the people back during the days of slavery, if they were caught reading, And I remember reading a story about Frederick Douglass, how he talked about how he would get, I think, 25 lashes if he was caught reading. So when I read, that's who I'm reading for.
And if my memory serves me correct, it was one of the slave owner's daughters or someone in the family that he was working for that would sneak and teach him how to read.
Absolutely.
Is that
That's
what
right.
you remember
That's
reading
right,
too?
yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that is so cool that, God has always got a ram in the bush.
And he would also play with white kids,
Yeah,
and he would quiz them,
There you
not
go.
knowing that he was getting the information
Right.
from them. So if you have people like that who use creative ways to learn how to read and write, surely we can. Once again, everybody, I'm Eric J. Chambers. This is the Cut Chronicles, where we chronicle urban life here on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. And I am joined by Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor. She is a successful, motivational, inspirational speaker. Of course, Jewel, your story, you didn't do this all of your life. I think you worked in the aerospace industry,
I had so
right?
many jobs figuring out what my purpose was. I had a lot of JOBs before I found my JOY. I worked in aerospace. I worked at Worlds of Curls. I worked at the phone company. I worked at a Dan and Yogurt shipping company. I worked at St. Francis Hospital. I worked at the Sheriff's Station in Carson. I worked at the City Hall in Carson. And every single one of those jobs, Eric, I knew that I was just passing through.
Yep.
It was like waiting for that right shoe. And when I found the industry of public speaking, which was dominated by white males, I didn't see any females, not to mention a female of color. But when I was in those audiences and my mind was blown with information I never received, that's what I want to do, and I haven't turned back.
Awesome. And of course, once again, I first met you in 1991, San Diego, the first annual African American Women's Conference. And our friends Trish Weir and Maria Dowd, the two of them had that. That wasn't that a phenomenal conference back in the day?
It has left such a huge imprint on me. It was like a master class. Every conference. I was with them for 13 years. We started off with one conference the first year. Then it's like, this is too good. We went to 2 a year. Then we went to 3 a year. And crisscrossed the country with Dr. Maya Angelou, Susan Taylor, Frances Cress Welsing, Gladys Knight.
Iyanla Vanzant. That's where we met Iyanla back in
Felicia
1992.
Rashad. All the icons that I used to just, flip through the magazines. And here I am on stage with them as the Mistress of Ceremonies. What a tremendous honor. Everywhere I go, Eric, there's somebody in my audience that says, I remember you from AWAT. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm just so grateful for that experience.
And I still get people who remember Iyanla mentioning Who Dat Productions. Who Dat done put this together because I did the videos. And I don't know how many people I've met because of the fact that she mentioned
just imagine
that name.
Could you imagine what could have happened if we had social
media?
then?
I know it. I know it. It would be off the chain.
Oh, my God. We had like 1,000 or more women in a room, bald-headed, braids, locks, wigs, straight, chocolate, mocha, maple. Women from all walks of life. And just sitting at the feet of these icons, we had Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, Janetta Cole. Oh, we had
the list goes
just
on
the
and
list
on,
goes
man.
on. Alice Walker.
And I appreciate that because that's where I met the majority of those people, like Dr. Sonia Sanchez and Iyanla, and those were just some incredible days. But just the wealth of knowledge that those women poured into that particular conference, it rests with us today. For those people right now who's listening, there's someone listening right now who is interested in becoming a motivational speaker, an inspirational speaker. I want you to give them some advice, but we're going to take a station break first, okay?
I would love to do that.
And so if you have a question also that you would like to ask Jewel, you can call us live in a living color. Our phone number is 909-792-5222. Once again, that's 909-792-5222. 909-792-5222. If you have a question that you'd like to ask Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor as we discuss and talk about, inspirational things to inspire you, things that will make you finally become what you should have been all along. Back after these words. Have you considered interviewing a parent or grandparent to preserve their history but don't know where to start or what questions to ask? If so, help has finally come. Dr. Eric J. Chambers presents Mama, I Want to Know You and Daddy, I Want to Know You, two books that will prompt you with over 200 questions that will help you record those sacred stories for the ages. Questions like, who were your grandparents? What were their occupations? Where were they born? Describe your favorite childhood memories. What are your fondest memories at Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and more? What was the proudest day of your life? How do you want to be remembered? What are your favorite scriptures, colors, and food? These books will help you write your family's history. Do it before dementia or time robs you of this opportunity. Order your copies today at whodatpublishinghouse.com. That's WHODAT publishinghouse.com.
Self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Hi, I'm Beyonce. I'm Kelly. Hello, I'm Michelle. And we're Destiny's Child.
Hi, I'm Chandra Wilson, and you're tuned in to the Cut Chronicles.
Once again, everybody, I'm Eric J. Chambers. This is the Cut Chronicles, where we chronicle urban life. And, of course, we have with us today on our very second show, Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor, a longtime friend who's inspiring people all over the world, not only with her speaking, but also with her books. Jewel, one of the things that I just mentioned a while ago, for that person right now who is on the job, working a particular job, but man, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired on the job. They know they have the gift,
Yes.
but they're afraid to take that step
Yeah.
because they want to do what you do. They want to do what I do, but they've allowed fear to basically to paralyze them. What do
Yeah.
you say to that person?
Well, I say that it's a process, and I say that if you do have a career, a job that's paying the bills, listen, we got to keep the lights on. We got to put gas in the car. We got to put food on the table. Begin to work on your dream and see your job as a sponsor. My job, my 8 to 5, is my sponsor that frees me up to do what I want to do because it's 24 hours in a day. My very first motivational presentation was in the kitchen of my home.
All right now.
Okay. And when I turned in my rental car today, because I rented a car to drive to San Jose to speak, the young man said, "Oh my God, where are you going? What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to go speak at a conference." He lit up. He said, "That's what I want to be." He's 20-something. I said, "Okay, you can ask me one question. If that's what you really want to be, you have the opportunity to ask a seasoned speaker of 35 years. What would you ask me?" He said, "How'd you get started?" I said, "I started in my kitchen and I found a need and I filled it." Start part-time. Go from free to fee. When you do what you love, you really don't care about the money. You just want to express yourself. But to be smart, you have to figure out, how do I go from my passion and make my passion profitable? So you need mentors. You need to have a plan. You need to know your worth. One of the most difficult things for me, Eric, was deciding what is my fee, because I didn't have mentors at the time. And it's difficult when you love what you do, because you would do it all day long if you could. But the reality is, if you've got to take care of your needs, you've got to take care of your family. So do it for free at first. Do some trial runs, see how it feels, see what kind of responses you get. Make sure that you get endorsements. Make sure you collect testimonies. Make sure that you stay connected to the host. The conference where I spoke just 2 days ago in San Jose, they have invited me every year for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
You know why? Because just like you and I sitting here today, success is about building relationships with people.
That's right.
And I would say 80%.
And maintaining those relationships.
Maintaining it, cultivating it, and not letting it be superficial. The relationships I've had with event hosts, we don't just talk every once in a while. I remember names. I remember birth dates. I remember who they're married to. I remember some of their ideas. I stay connected because people like to do business with people they already know. And I would say 80% of my speaking events are repeat invitations. So it's very crucial. Have people skills.
That's right. And also, in addition to that, I think it's important that you do the homework, because we have a lot of people out there talking loud, saying nothing. So, yes, everybody has an opinion, but you need to specialize in something. And so whatever your message is, I highly recommend that you get to know that particular industry that you're planning to talk in, and have something of quality to say to people, and that will take you a mighty long way. Because again, as we in the age of social media, where everybody has an opinion, but everybody's opinion has not been verified. As far as a lot of times people are saying something, but you want to make sure, just like when doing a term paper, okay, you state your claim, and after that, you got to present your evidence, and then also you have some corroborating evidence that, with those endorsements or other people who are of even greater, say for instance, greater status, that they would also, basically you're agreeing with what they're saying as well.
Well, the industry has changed over the years. When I first started, it's like, give us 5 points for this, teach us that. We have grown as a society to be more vulnerable. People want to hear stories. And so what I'm finding is that people are becoming transparent. People want to know, how did you manage your marriage? How did you get through the divorce? How are you raising your children? How did you get clean and sober? How did you write your book? How are you dealing with your parent that just passed away? How are you dealing with the pandemic? People want the hows. How do I do this? And people are hurting, Eric. And so I'm finding now that as I pivoted, as I tuned into my audiences, what are they talking about? What are they asking me? I could say I want to talk about this, but if you really want to be relevant, keep your ear to the earth. And what are people talking about? There's so many topics we could talk about in this world today: violence, racism, economics, shootings, pandemic.
But nobody is an expert on you. So you are your greatest.
You speak from your own
and of course your own experiences.
Right.
There's a lot of people who have endured so much. I know I did a sermon a couple of years ago called My Personal Katrina. And I was talking about how I went through my personal Katrina.
That's right.
I'm from New Orleans originally, and remember how the people were standing on the rooftops of their homes with the white flag waving them? Yeah. Well, I went through my personal Katrina with my marriage. I went through my personal Katrina with my career. I went through my personal Katrina also with my finances. But praise be to God, I survived my wilderness. And the interesting thing is, it happened in the middle of the pandemic.
In the middle of the pandemic. I remember you telling me that. And you were talking earlier about showing some love to Mississippi going through this tornado. Well, I often use the metaphors of people going through their own tornado, their own earthquake, their own storm, their own flood. I went through my own earthquake when my 38-year-old son died in my arms. That's shattering. And so my pain has been able to help other people that are going to deal with the inevitable. We're going to all lose somebody.
That's right.
Whether it's through divorce or death.
Or they're going to lose us.
And so people need to get comfortable talking about what I call the shifts in life. That's right. Why I wrote a book. Shift happens. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, I'm not trying to just be all la, everything is wonderful, just quote the scripture, just turn around 3 times, take these vitamins. No, we need practical insight. How do I do this? So my messages have shifted from just goal setting and name it and claim it to mental and emotional wellness.
Awesome. Once again, everybody, I'm Eric J. Chambers. This is the Cut Chronicles, where we chronicle urban life. My guest is Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor, and I understand we have a caller on the line.
Right.
Caller, hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. What's your name and what city?
Hi, my name is LaCora, and I'm calling from this beautiful city of Pasadena.
Hello, LaCora, my friend. Thank you for being our first caller.
When I saw that you had Dr. Joel on, I said, well, I have to give a call. You guys are 2 of my favorite people.
Oh, LaCora, how wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Of course. I hear you two going on about, shift, when shift happens, and people that you are inspired by, the stages that you shared with such remarkable people. It kind of reminded me of an article I read about Oprah Winfrey, and how she was actually inspired by some of the most unlikely guests. She had invited skinheads and Ku Klux Klan members this was back in 1986 on her show, and she said that they had made, or they were, her greatest spiritual teachers, that these unlikely people actually taught her a vital lesson about discourse and influence, and how she used that moment to shift herself,
Right.
you know, and become a force for good. And so, Dr. Jewel, I'm wondering, was there ever a time that you had a very unlikely occurrence, guest, person, that you thought for sure you were going to teach them a thing or two, but they turned around and taught you a lesson? Has anything like that happened? That's my question for today.
Well, thank you, LaCora. And because I have a 35-year span of speaking and ministering to women, I've had it happen to me time and time and time again. It's been very humbling for women to let me into their lives to share with me the trauma that they've experienced. And that's why I have shifted more talking about how do we cope? How do we practice what I call safe stress? There's good stress and there's bad stress. But I'm telling you, LaCora, the stories I've heard from women and a few men that have shared their stories, it just rocks me how resilient we are, how powerful God is. You know, Sunday at church we sang that God is a way maker, a miracle worker, a promise keeper, and a light in the darkness. And so many people that come to me are in a dark place. They're looking for a way. They're looking for that promise to be fulfilled for their purpose. And I hear story after story of women that have been crushed either through abuse or lost both their breasts from breast cancer, or women like me that I minister to who've lost a child like I did. And it's like, that's out of order. I talk with women that have very dysfunctional childhoods, and I can't believe some of the stories that I hear, but it's a testament that they feel safe to share, because if we don't share and we don't express our pain, it'll take us out. And so it has made me realize how resilient we are. It's made me realize that there is a healing on the other side. I remember I spoke in North Carolina a few years ago, and it was a small group, and I noticed there was one young lady who wasn't saying anything. She didn't participate. And I asked the hostess at the end, you know, was there something going on with that young lady? Why she didn't participate? She said, Joy, you're lucky she even showed up. She is sitting there pregnant with the second child from her father. And I'm like, Lord, if she had spoken up during the event, I don't know what I would have said, because I couldn't relate to such a horrible pain that this young lady was going through. So there's so many stories of women that, and men too. I talked to a young man the other day who was in federal prison for 30 years, and now he is going to be speaking at one of my events, because I have a strong desire to empower men also, because they're getting the short end of the stick of learning how to deal with trauma, overcoming divorce, not getting a job, being lonely, dealing with racism. So we want to give men a voice too, because we're living in some very interesting times, and people are bleeding. And you know, LaCora, if you don't heal, you'll bleed on people that didn't even cut you.
Wow. And ironically, LaCora did a short film called Seven Sharp, and it deals with something similar to that.
Really?
Incest. Am I right about that, LaCora?
You are right. Yes, you are, because a lot of us are so familiar with molestation, incest. We talk about it. It's taboo, but we know it's there.
Yes.
We know it's there.
Yes.
With my film, I actually had someone, she was an incest survivor. She came up to me and she said, you know, thank you for just talking about this.
Yes.
Thank you. It's not talked about. And I know that I had a meeting with a very big exec, and she said, you know, it's a story that isn't told, so it's a story that isn't sold. She crushed my heart. She did. But you know what? At the end of the day, I know that it is a healing factor. It is cinema therapy, and I know that it will be the catalyst to a lot of healing, to start conversations. So,
well, I'm so glad for your contribution of documenting and putting that into cinema. I would love to talk to you at a later time, because, as you know, LaCora, we are sick as our secrets. And so when we can create a place for conversation, for revealing and healing. That to me is where my North Star is now, as helping us to heal. Because what's the point of teaching other people how to achieve a goal and they can't sustain it because they're hurting, or because they're toxic, or because they're procrastinating, or because they don't feel worthy? And so I had to dial it back and say, Lord, I'm going to do what you're leading me to do, and that is to really help us to talk about those secret pains and secret stories, because it is so liberating, as you know, LaCora, to discuss it.
Okay, thank you,
Yes.
LaCora, for your call in. We will be chatting with you again real soon. But in the meantime, it's time for us to take one more break. When we come back, we're going to shift to relationships.
Okay.
Because, Jewel, you are a relationship expert. You've been married for many years. And, of course, you've got some incredible words of encouragement to give to those who are in relationships. In fact, there's somebody right now who's thinking about divorcing their significant other. But we want you to hold off on that, because Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor has some words for you to encourage you to not give up 5 minutes before the miracle. Back in a moment.
That's somebody that's calling in.
My mother was very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign and she wasn't even really sure where she was at.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Eric J. Chambers. Tune in to my Jazzful radio show Saturdays from 5 till 7 p.m. right here on KCAA. Hear Makita, Howard Hewitt, Anita Baker, Marvin Sapp, India Ari, Kim, Alicia Keys, Maze featuring Frankie Beverly, and so much more. It's Saturdays at 5 p.m. on KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, an NBC radio affiliate. If you like jazz and gospel, you'll love the Jazzful.
I grew up hearing that women are bad with money, but I pay bills and take care of my family, so I'm pretty good with money. And now I'm taking control of my financial future by saving for retirement. Jumpstart your retirement savings at WeSaySaveIt.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Okay, women are saying that there are no good men. Obviously, you've been lied to. A good man puts God first, and he knows his purpose. A good man is strong, he's confident, and he takes care of responsibility. A good man doesn't make excuses, he makes it happen. A good man doesn't want a woman to make him feel like a man, he knows he's one. That's why women want him. A good man loves his woman, he loves his children, and they see it in his actions. He's not just a talker, he backs it up with his actions. A good man is wise, he's smart, and he's just, and no matter how many times he falls, he rises back up. A good man is kind. Now don't get it twisted. He's considerate, he's helpful, he's a giver, not gullible. A good man knows that God is his source. That's why you can't keep him down. A good man can be disappointed, but he won't allow it to defeat him. A good man is faithful, and he'll always be there. So to all the good men out there, I love you, brothers. Believe that.
Once again, everybody, I'm Eric J. Chambers. This is the Cut Chronicles, where we chronicle urban life. That was a clip, Jewel, that I heard on social media. That's one of the advantages of social media, is you get a chance to get, there's a lot of garbage on there, but there's also a lot of inspiration. What are your thoughts about that? Because we as men get tired of women talking about there are no good men, when unfortunately a lot of them get the good man, but some people just can't deal with relational prosperity, so they got to self-sabotage. What do you say to that?
Well, I totally agree. It's so important that we lift up our men, and what happens is that women that have been hurt choose to only focus on the hurt and never focus on the man's great qualities. And what I'm finding, you know, when people talk about sexual identity and they talk about fluidity, I think there's fluidity in our personalities, and people never learn how to live with a person who has different qualities. You could have one person that's an extrovert, an introvert, has a good sense of humor, is a leader, acts like a child sometimes. It needs appreciation, needs attention. They can cook, they can be quiet, they can have a sense of humor. But when you expect a person to show up the same way all the time and not allow their fluid to flow, that some days you don't want to talk, some days you do want to talk, some days you're angry, and sometimes you're not angry. Sometimes you want to communicate, sometimes you find it difficult to communicate. And this, to me, has been what has allowed me to survive and thrive in a 53-year marriage, is that I recognize that my husband has different aspects, and I can't expect him to show up the same way every day based on what I need. I had to learn to take care of myself and recognize that I needed space to be fluid. Some days I want to talk, some days I don't. Some days I feel like cooking, some days I don't. Some days I'm a nurturer, worried about him, and then some days like, dude, you on your own, I'm on my own. It's just a weird thing when you give people the space. And what am I talking about? Unconditional love.
And a part of that unconditional love is the feeling of being appreciated. One of my favorite books that I have here is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, once again. And in this book, it talked about a study that was done years prior to this book coming out. And it was talked about runaway wives. And it said that the main reason wives ran away was because of lack of appreciation. And it also talks about John Dewey, who was one of America's foremost and profound philosophers. He once said that the deepest urge in human nature is the desire to be important. Again, the deepest urge in human nature is the desire to be important. And we all want to not only know that we are important in the relationship, but also we appreciate it, because, we've heard so many times where people say, I can do bad all by myself.
Yes.
Certainly you can do bad all by yourself, but you can even do greater with a companion.
Absolutely. And I find that statement to be about 90% true. I find in my experiences that men feel bad because they don't get enough attention, and women feel bad because they don't get enough appreciation.
That's right.
It's two different things. And so I love the book, The 5 Languages of Love.
Yep, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman.
The 5 Love Languages. It's a classic. It is enduring for time, and it just hit the nail on the head that when you don't know what the love language is of your child, of your mate, of your parent, of your friend. See, relationships go across the board. And whenever I talk about relationships, people think I'm talking about just marriage or dating. No. There are people that don't have healthy relationships with their parent or with their friend or with their child. I can't tell you how many people that I work with and counsel that are not speaking to a family member, be it a sibling, be it a friend, or even their child. I hear so many people saying, I haven't seen my grandchild in years. My sister and I are not talking. My mom and I are not talking. I haven't talked to my dad. So relationships are so crucial. And what I have found to be so helpful is I learned to sit back and observe, okay, what does this person need? Oh, this person likes gifts. Oh, this person wants some time with me. Oh, this person likes for me to appreciate them. Oh, this person wants me to serve them in some kind of way. And I find that in serving my husband, now Eric, I've been married 53 years, and there's a fluidity to me. There's an old-fashioned part of me. I still take my husband his dinner.
Awesome.
I feel like he's the king. I feel like he deserves it. I feel like he doesn't require a lot. But I could have an attitude and say, or hear other women say, you still taking him his dinner? Now, that's somebody that don't have a man. But I say he loves serving.
Well, at the same time, people talk about how they love when a guy still opens the door, and
Absolutely.
They say chivalry is not dead, but that also goes for women.
Absolutely.
And when you appreciate one another, and it is, to me, look, I've been married twice, and both times I loved being able to do domestic work. I still do. I love washing dishes.
So
I
you
still
love service.
Absolutely. I still do,
That's your language of
laundry. My wife, when they came home, they didn't have to worry about the carpet being vacuumed, or if it needed to be, I didn't, pop an attitude and say, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. No. I'm a Navy veteran, so we, even before I went to the Navy, even when we were living in our trailer in Louisiana, I thank God that my mother made us have a chore for washing the dishes for a week, and then also we would have to clean up the place. And of course, when I went into the military, you had to always have your compartment clean. And so when I left, and I still to this day, and I got out of the Navy in 1986, still to this day, I still fold everything, clothes, everything, the way that I did when I was in the military. So that is a discipline that I've decided to keep.
Not only is it a discipline, it is what I tell women. You need to know the backstory.
Absolutely.
Your backstory of your rearing from your mother to the military says that you were cultivated to have a love language of service. Now, if a woman doesn't know that and she's like, I'll do it, or why are you doing that, or picking on you, she hasn't understood your backstory. And many people rush into relationships not knowing a person's backstory. What was their childhood like? What was their relationship with their parents? What's the relationship with their ex? What's the relationship with their children? Are they angered easily? Do they need to be coddled? Do they need a lot of attention because they didn't get it or because they always got it? And a lot of people don't take the time to observe and ask those kind of questions, because I think there's three things that if you pay attention to these three things, it'll help you to decide if this is a relationship you want to get into. And that is knowing a person's biography, where they live, where they grew up, where they went to school, what jobs do they have.
And ironically, in my book, Mama and Daddy, I Want to Know You, it's not just for grandparents because it asks those simple questions.
Yes.
And if people were to answer some of those questions, they would get to know each other on a far more deeper level as opposed to just the surface.
Much more intimate. And the second thing is to know that person's backstory. How were they traumatized? You know, where's their anxiety coming from? Because it didn't just start with them. It started with
That's right.
Parents.
Usually
or
there's
anything.
a trail somewhere.
There's a trail. Okay. Then the third thing is, do you know this person's biology? In other words, what are their propensities for having some health issues? Are they overweight? Are they a vegetarian? Do they do emotional eating? Do they have high blood pressure? Is that in the family? What are their sleeping patterns? All of this is biology. And when you don't know these things about a person and you discover it later, this is why relationships end. Because there's no tolerance, there's no unconditional love, there's no wisdom and insight into why this person is showing up the way they're showing up.
Absolutely. Once again, everybody, Eric J. Chambers, The Cut Chronicles, where we chronicle urban life. Our phone number here, if you'd like to call us, is 909-792-5252. That's 909-792-5252. We're going to be here for another 10 minutes or so. Again, I'm speaking with Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor. She's an inspirational, motivational speaker. She has so much wisdom and knowledge, and she dispenses this information all over the country and the world, specifically mainly to women. But even though every now and then I'll go to one of your events and there's a guy.
We have a co-ed audience. We're having one coming up soon in April.
That's right. And then, of course, at the beginning of the year, you usually do your Super Goal events.
Super Goal Saturday to kick off the new year, and we use football as a metaphor for a strategy for life. Get on the right team, get a coach, get armored up, know what your goal is, handle the fumbles. So I've been doing that for years. I love that metaphor of football in the beginning of the year, just to strategize and plan and have a vision for yourself in the new year. But, the Holy Spirit is guiding me more to be more inclusive for men, because I'm just seeing too much pain. I'm hearing from so many men, even in my own family. I'm experiencing and seeing the gap between women getting empowered and men becoming empowered.
And usually the men, we have a tendency to conceal the pain.
Absolutely.
And our friend Terry Williams, in fact, I have her book in my bag here, is called Black Pain. And she said it just looks like we're not hurting.
Right.
So a lot of times we're masking it, men and women alike.
Yeah.
Just quickly, Joel, tell me, say for instance, for someone right now who's contemplating divorcing their mate, maybe they've been hearing too much chatter from their friends, especially their single friends,
right,
and them telling them, girl, if I were you, I would move on from him. You're to this and you're to that. What do you say to those people?
Well, in our culture, it's a shame that therapy and counseling has such a stigma. We go to church, wonderful. We get spiritually fed, but we also need other outlets where we can talk with people who are not emotionally attached to us to give us another perspective. Sometimes we're so blinded by our pain and our disappointments from our mate, our hurt from our mate, that all we do is keep playing that tape. And another third party could give you a whole different perspective, give you some tools, sharpen that iron. because I'm just finding too many relationships that are ending over things that could have been, they're solvable.
Petty stuff.
Just petty stuff. And so
unfortunately, a lot of times people think that the grass is greener on the other side.
Yes.
And you get over there and you see that it's artificial turf, right?
Artificial turf.
It wasn't what it appeared to be from a distance. So what do you say to that person? You know, I highly recommend that people, you know, get the counseling. And as you mentioned, how from the psychological standpoint in the African American community especially, it has been taboo. There's a lot more people that are getting therapy now because a lot of times we look at our significant other and think that it is them. And I got a friend in Georgia, in Atlanta, who wrote a book called Your Spouse is Not Your Problem.
That's right.
A lot of times the enemy is within.
We have to do the mirror work. We have to sit in front of the mirror and do the work. And that's not something that has been always encouraged. It's like make that money, chase the dream, make that money, pay those bills. So we've never had the time to sit down and say, what's happening? We're just like strangers in the dark. We've become roommates. We're not talking. We're giving each other silent treatment. We're looking for love outside the marriage. We're bad-mouthing the parent of our child. We're not finding enough role models to say, okay, look, now see, the sad thing for me, Eric, is I have counseled many couples, but people don't want their business out there.
I get it.
So I can't get, endorsements. I can't get people to say, look, Jewel helped us, because it's like they don't want anybody to know. And it amazes me when I do see people on social media that I know and I see them faking it.
Yep.
And they're sending a wrong message to people, like they're just so happy, everything is wonderful. And
then you know the real story.
And I know the real story. So there's a lot of shame.
Okay, I have right now want to say once again, I'm Eric J. Chambers. This is the Cut Chronicles, where we chronicle urban life. I want to give a shout out to my man, Chuck Owens. Chuck is listening here in Orange County, California. And also want to give a shout out to Magaline Penny, my cousin who's listening in Oxnard. And she has a question that she's texted me. She said, what causes victims to protect the people who violate them so much that it causes them to lose their mind?
Because people that are victimizers and oppressors, they have a way of making a person feel helpless and powerless. And sometimes they charm them. You could charm a person so they get these mixed signals. Oh, they love me. No, they don't love me. They love me. So they hold on to the moments of when they've been charmed. And that person can make them feel safe, or they can make that person feel threatened. So, there's a thing called the Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that syndrome is like where people have been held hostage, but then they begin to fall in love because that's their survivor. That's the person that's feeding them. That's the person that's telling them who they are. And so they look to that person for everything, not realizing they're losing their identity.
Okay, once again, Dr. Jewel Diamond Taylor and Eric J. We got one more quick caller that we're going to fit in. We only have a couple of minutes left. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, hi, this is Joy calling in from Carson, California.
Hey, Joy.
Hey, I want to say congratulations to you, Eric, on launching your new program, and to Jewel. And my question is, in relationships, Jewel knows that's one of my favorite topics to discuss, to expound some more on the 5 love languages.
Okay.
Okay, we have a couple of minutes to go, but just quickly.
Yeah, quickly. Those that feel love when they're being served, or they want to serve their mate. Those that love to give gifts or receive gifts. Those that love touch is important to them. Those that need validation, affirmation. They like to hear, I love you. They like to hear they're appreciated. They like to hear that. And I can't think of the 5th one right now, but the book, can you think of the 5th one, Eric?
I can't
Love,
think of it.
Touch, word, service. Oh, time.
Time.
There's some people that just want to, can you just spend time with me?
And that's me.
Yeah.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at